Hello, Kate. I'm happy to be taking a look today at your website, urbansafari.com.au. I have a lot of details to go over, but before I begin, I thought I'd do a quick recap of your business based on our previous email conversation. So, you're a solo photographer, but working under a business name called Urban Safari, which is based in Melbourne, Australia, from what I could tell. And your main work, which is reflected here on the homepage, is broken down into two main parts. One is business and product photography, and the other is shooting headshots and doing personal branding for business owners. And you've explained that your target audience is mainly made up of female business owners aged around 35, 40, with some experience running the business, usually a higher income, and women who value quality and expertise. So you want to convey that in your website. And the main goals of this website as a whole are to have people explore what you do and then, of course, contact you and hire you. We'll go over the various services you have to offer shortly. But overall, I wanted to start off with a few impressions. I think this is a very beautiful site. Overall, it has beautiful colors. I love the pastel colors which you've used. They should go well with your target audience. They should make a good impression. The website is very neat and tidy. It's minimalistic. So good job with it so far. It's above average, of course, but there are places where it can be polished, and I'll try to cover as many of those details as possible. But before we talk about design details, let's talk a bit about the overall site structure. There's an important point I want to make here. So on your homepage, you have these two big sections for your two main services. And first of all, the order of these two should follow whichever service is biggest in your business, or whichever service you want to grow into the future. From our email conversation, I got the feeling that that personal branding, that side of your business is more important. So you should place that first, so to the left, and then have business and product photography on the right. So prioritize them based on importance. The business and product service that just links to its own page on our website, which is great overall. You explain the types of services they can get from you. You show some nice grids of images, collages of examples, and your call to action buttons throughout the page are for them to go to your contact page, which is good. So, and you have some testimonials as well. So everything is fine with this service. But the other one, it's kind of broken down into two sub-services, personal branding and headshot photography. And the call to action here on the homepage just links to one of those two pages, portraits and headshots. Here you kind of mention a couple of topics, and one of which is personal branding, which is a bit confusing because you have another page dedicated to personal branding photography. I think this is all a bit too confusing for first-time visitors to your website. You have two big sections on your homepage, but in your navigation menu in the services drop-down here, you have 3 pages. So I'm thinking you should consolidate them. So you would merge this personal branding page with the headshots page. On this personal branding page, you're explaining the services you offer. You talk about yourself, how it works. You show examples of photos, and you talk about pricing. And of course, you have a booking form at the end, which is perfect. The other headshot photography page basically doesn't introduce anything very new. Here it's just talking about personal branding photography. The only major new thing is the service called Headshot Days, which I've read about on your other pages. You could, I guess, bring this section into the other page, into the personal branding page. So merging the 2 pages into one. So you have just 2 pages here in the drop-down menu, just like you have it visually on the homepage. That would make it simpler. You can then link to other pages, like a dedicated page for this Headshot Days service, but make it clear in the navigation menu what services you offer, and it should match what you display on your homepage. And one other thing that is a bit confusing. So here you talk about personal branding again. If this is a different service from what you offer on your dedicated personal branding page, then it needs to be differentiated somehow. It needs to be named differently. Otherwise, it's just confusing. Do I, as a potential client, do I get personal branding photography from here or from your other page? It needs to be more consistent and cleaned up. And then whatever you decide, it should reflect then on the homepage of your website. Okay, so this is the main structural problem I see with the website, because it's just the homepage is designed beautifully here, and you're giving them 2 options, but then once they go to the navigation menu, there's an overlap here, so you need to consolidate those 2 options. Okay, now let's talk about some design, some cosmetic changes for your website. I know this is WordPress, and it's using this Jupyter WordPress theme. I've read about it. It's pretty good. It has good reviews, good included plugins. It has a page builder. So all the details, all the visual suggestions that I'm going to give you, most of them I assume can be done inside the theme options section, or in the visual page builder that you have for customizing your website. Most of the changes should be doable there. If there's anything that you can't find in your theme options, then it needs more custom CSS code to style things, to change the appearance. For that, of course, you could hire a developer to do that, but that's, I guess, more time consuming and more expensive. But an easier option would be to use a plugin like this one, CSS Hero, which is really great. It works with any theme out there. You just visually select an element on the page that you want to customize, and then you have visual controls to do that. You don't need any sort of coding to do that. Just quickly, let's look at one of their demos just to see how it looks like. So this is another popular WordPress theme. It's called Divi, and we have CSS Hero, the plugin here running. And you can see once I hover over elements, I have these boxes to select an element, and then once I select something, I have all these controls here, and I can play with spacing, and it's repeatable. I can change font size. I can use the keyboard arrow. So you can imagine it's a lot easier to change the look of your website using a CSS plugin like this, instead of especially when your WordPress theme is more limited and it doesn't give you all the customization controls. This way you do it all visually without having to worry about coding knowledge. It's all done visually. So let's talk about your website design. Looking at the template first, so the header and the footer, which apply throughout your website. One thing is, I'd love to see a more visual version of your logo, not this simple text-based version, because the logo you have is beautiful, and I know it through this loading animation whenever a page loads. If you turn this logo into an horizontal version of it, so urban, safari, all on both on the same line, but keeping those beautiful accents and graphics, I think that would look really nice in the header to keep the personality of the website. Secondly, in the header, you have a drop-down menu here under services. It's good to have some sort of drop-down indicator. Usually it's a small arrow, downward pointing arrow here to the right of the word, making it clear that there's a drop down. People can hover over that to expand the drop down. Another thing is the current page, which is home in this case, has a different color. You know, it's selected, it's the current page. The color doesn't contrast well with the header background. It's kind of the same, a similar color, and it's barely visible. So try to choose a different font color for the current page. And one other thing, as you scroll down, I noticed you have a sticky header, which is good, and it doesn't take up too much vertical space. The only problem here is that the menu items are not vertically centered in the sticky header. You can see the logo here is centered perfectly, but the navigation menu items are a bit lower than the vertical middle. That's something you can probably tweak in your theme options or with some CSS. Then moving on to the footer of the website. The footer is good, it's functional, but it could be cleaned up a bit. The logo image could be aligned to the left. I think it would look better aligned to the left to match the text position, and the newsletter subscribe form here occupies way too much space. It could be cleaned up and move all the form fields here could be brought closer together. And then the contact widget on the right, it's good that the phone number is clickable, but you can do that for the email mentioned here, where you say via email, you can turn this into a link. And then the social media buttons, they're a bit too small. I think they could be made a bit larger and closer together. So let me try to quickly do this in my browser and the developer tools, just as a small preview of how it might look. Okay, moving on. Whenever a page loads on your website, you have this loading animation. I think it's not bad, but I've stopped it here intentionally. The logo is a bit too large. I think it could be made a bit smaller. It's a bit too strong now with the size, and the background color is a light shade of gray, and I think it would look so much cleaner with white, especially because most of your website has a white clean look, a white background. So you could have these bouncing dots in a different color, like the shade of teal, of blue from your header, or some shade of red from your logo, whatever you choose, but I think it will look much cleaner with a white background, this loading animation. And one other thing I wanted to mention about the entire template of the website, so this applies to all the pages, is to be more consistent with headings, because you're using some big headings and this font face, and my suggestion is to make this match the font face you're using in the logo, and to be consistent with that. So even for smaller headings like this one, use the same font face, even if it's smaller in font size. So it's all consistent, including this text here. Make it use the same font face as you have in your nice logo. Okay, now let's talk about the homepage. I'm going to try to walk through each and every page of your website relatively quickly to show you my impressions and some places which could be improved. On the homepage, you start off with these two big sections here. I like the hover effect. Some small comments here. The font color here, it's black. The image is quite busy, so it's not very readable, especially this very thin font here. So you can fix that by introducing some sort of color in the font here, or some sort of overlay on top of the image. You could prepare that in Photoshop if you want. So a white overlay on top of the image to make it all lighter would contrast better with this black text here. And I recommend making the entire heading here, including the smaller title above it, clickable, making this all clickable, not just the colored button here. Some people would just click on that. This entire box, in fact, feels like it's a clickable button. If you don't want to make it all clickable, at least make the text as well without changing any appearance. It shouldn't be underlined or anything like that, but it should be clickable, and the mouse cursor should turn into the pointer into the hand cursor. For this section, for the business and products block, I think you could do a lot better with a different type of image. This is a bouquet of flowers, I think, from one of your clients, from a florist or something, but it's just a close-up of a bouquet of flowers. It's not very special. Whereas if you were to use, let's say, an image like this one, which clearly shows the inside of a business or a restaurant, a cafe, it would look much better. Or an image from this collage here. It would make it so much clearer what this service you offer is all about, instead of just a flower. The one on the right for personal branding, I think it's good. It's a good choice of image. Moving lower down the homepage, you have these nice 3 boxes. For them, browse my work. I think this is meant to point to your portfolio page. It doesn't do that at the moment. There's no link. I think you should add a link to it. The second one, read the blog. Obviously, the blog doesn't exist yet, so it makes no sense having it yet on the homepage while the blog is not ready. And the third one, meet the photographer. This currently links to your about page, which is good. And I can see that the text is clickable and the icon is clickable. You should make the subtitle here also clickable, or the entire box. Whenever I hover over the entire box, that would make things even simpler. And the subtitle here, saving the web one image at a time. I think you can, it's a bold statement to save the web. I think you might consider replacing it with something like improving your business one image at a time, or something to do with the benefits you offer your clients, because saving the web is a bit too generic. Then lower down the page, you currently have a section about business and product photography. And then you mention headshot days. So these are your other 2 main sections on the homepage. I think since personal branding photography is such a big component of your business, you should start off with that. So below these colorful sections, you should have a big section all about personal branding. You can, inside that section, you can include some text taken from this dedicated page, then a button taking people to this page, and include some sort of collage of images like this one, which is so nice, of what a personal branding photo shoot is all about. I think this should be the first section as you scroll down the homepage here. Afterwards, you could have this section for headshot days, which is also important. I recommend including a collage here, a grid of images like you have on your other pages, not just a single photo. Because if people are in a hurry, they don't read a lot about what you offer, they scroll down, they might think this is you, because it's such a big, strong, it looks like a profile image, like a self-portrait. Show a grid of images here from one of your headshot day events. And then at the end of the homepage, you can include a section like this for business and product photography. Make sure that the images here are clickable. They're currently not. So people can expand them and it would open a lightbox slideshow of some sort. And in this section, don't forget to include a call to action, a button at the end of this section, taking people to that specific page, which is in your services menu here. Okay, that's about it for the homepage. Now let's look at some of your services pages. Depending on the background image that you're using here, you have to be careful with the font size and color here. This is a bit too small. The background image is very light. So again, some sort of image overlay would be useful here and on all the other pages. Beyond that, again, it's being consistent with headings and how they look. This is a regular heading with a sans serif font. Here again, but here you're using a different type of font for these headings. So you have 3 types of heading designs on your website or something like that. You could be more consistent using that nice font face you have in your logo. I think would be better. A problem I discovered here, for example, this link, book a session, the URL for that takes you to urbansafari.wpengine.com, which WP Engine is probably your hosting provider, and that's the temporary URL from when first building your website. I assume you have to fix those links to use your custom domain. It should take people to urbansafari.com.au/ that specific page URL. To fix all these links, there are options for that. There's a plugin called Better Search Replace. It's a free plugin. You can install that, and this helps you do a find and replace in your WordPress database. So you put in the find field the URL urbansafari.wpengine.com, and in the replace field you put your main domain. So that fixes all of these links for you. Be sure to do a backup first again, of course. The other thing I noticed on your services pages is that whenever you mention headshot days, there are multiple destinations that people can go to. So let me open them up in separate tabs. One of them is this page, which is kind of an introductory page on this service. You're encouraging people to book a session, and you're showing some examples and past clients. And the other page where you link to is this one for upcoming dates, which shows one upcoming date. And once you click on that, it shows you the actual price and some more details about this service. You need to be consistent with these 2 destinations whenever you have call to action buttons like this, dates and location. Choose one destination to link to. It should be cleaner. I think you could have a separate unique page for this specific service, which could be this page, but it needs to be improved a bit in terms of design. And only once they click on a book a session now would they reach the actual product page. On this product page, You can see you have the page title here and breadcrumbs on the right. Those could be removed. There's too much space here. It can be made a bit tighter, and a problem I notice is you only have one date. So this is the current date. I can't see any available dates on the calendar yet. So there's nothing I can select. Okay, I notice now it says please select October 10th, which is in the past. So I guess I missed that event, in which case this page shouldn't be available, or there should be some sort of notice at the top that you missed it. Okay, I see the date here now. I noticed that you missed it, and then stay in touch to get notified when new dates are available. Something like you're doing here, but these needs to be placed more prominently when the date is no longer available. So overall, this entire the entire way you're promoting this service needs to be cleaned up a bit, I think. And by the way, on this product page, you list what the sessions include here, but you also mention that here below in the description. It's a bit redundant, so I think you can do a better job of breaking down the text, what ends up in the main product information here, and what secondary information that's less important could be placed here below in the description. Okay, that's about it for services. Moving on to your portfolio page. At the moment, I think this might still be a work in progress. You currently only have 4 portfolios here, each of them linking to an individual portfolio page where you show examples. This is a testimonial. You could make it look like a testimonial like you did in the footer throughout the website, or turn it into italics, or put the name of the client who said that. But overall, you could include more examples of headshots and personal branding stuff, because these 4 ones just look like they are business and product photography, and not your other side of the business. So I think this portfolio page needs to be expanded to reflect all your services. And one final thought is this title here at the top. What would you like to see? I think this should be just turned into something simpler, like recent projects or something like that, because this is a bit too clever. People come to this page to see your work. It's obvious what they would like to see. There's no sense asking that. On your about page, which I think it's a really good page, the title and the tagline there at the top, I think these could be changed into some sort of color, because the background image is black and white. They would stand out more if they were colored text. The bio text here you have, I think it's really great. I've read it. It's very authentic, and you want to attract clients who are like that, which I think is good. Not many photographers do that. It takes courage. So well done on the bio text. Below your name here, I think it would look really cool to include a signature, a handwritten signature of you. It would look very cool, and it's in line with this sort of website design. And finally, I like the stats here. They're really creative, they're good. So definitely keep them, maybe tweak the font color a bit because it's not that easy to read. It doesn't contrast well in terms of color, but other than that, it's a really nice thing to have. And I know it animates as you scroll down, all these numbers animate, which is perfect. Then moving on to the contact page. Again, I don't think you need the page title and the breadcrumbs here. I'm sure you can disable that in the theme options. There is a bit of misalignment here at the top. I think the contact form on the right should be moved higher up so it aligns with the text. Other than that, on the left side column, the email address should be clickable. It should be turned into a link, mail to link. And also the phone should be clickable. People expect things to be easy here. And one final thing is it's good that you've included the address. The wording here, you said post us love letters. Why use the word us? You could remove that, post love letters to that specific address. And us implies that you're a group of people, that you're a team behind Urban Safari, which doesn't look like you're one person behind it. So it's a bit confusing. Be consistent with using singular or plural throughout your website. The contact form, it's good, but I would make the phone number not required. It's a required field now. Maybe I'm just contacting you not as a potential client, but for asking a question or trying to get in touch with you for other reasons, as an industry connection or something. I don't need to fill in my phone number to do that. You're asking people to include a phone number if they prefer a callback. So I would make this not required, and then this final section, I would just get rid of it. If people enter their phone number, it implies that you should call them. If they don't, email is the way to go. That way you can make this entire contact form a bit shorter and easier to fill in. Okay, now let's talk a bit about SEO and a few problems that I've noticed on your website. There's an issue which is harder to replicate, but let's say I enter some strange URL on your site, so I reach the 404 page, which is normal. But here there's a search box. Now, if I search for something like hello, I get some pages which include the word hello, which is normal, but then you have a sidebar here with some links. And if I open these up, they are some sort of category pages, or something like that, blog categories. These should all be deleted. If you don't use them, then remove them. If they're part of the blog and the blog is still under construction, then it's fine. But otherwise, don't keep any sample pages or demo content introduced by your WordPress theme or anything like that, because they're useless, or they can even dilute your SEO signals in some way. Other than that, let's talk about the SEO tags on your website. On your homepage, if we look at the source code, the SEO title is this. It starts off with visual content creation. I know this is one of your secondary services that you offer clients, but you don't mention content creation anywhere else on the website from what I've seen. So the SEO title for the homepage, which is really important, of course, should be focusing on your main services, on what's actually on the page. So maybe something like personal branding, business and product photography by Urban Safari, or something like that. So that's it for the title. And the other thing is your homepage is missing an SEO meta description. In fact, your entire site, all the pages in your website don't have a meta description. When they are missing, what Google does when it shows your pages in search results is it kind of does its best to grab some piece of text from the page depending on the user's search intent, but it's a lot better for you to define the SEO meta descriptions to get more control over what phrases you rank for. You should use a plugin like the Yoast SEO plugin to be able to define those. I think you could take a look at one of the articles on my website where I talk about how to write the SEO titles and meta descriptions, and how you don't need to overthink things and try to jam in as many keywords as possible. It should all sound natural. You can check this out. But other than that, you should definitely get into the habit of writing unique SEO titles and meta descriptions for all the pages in your website. Also, because I noticed, let's take a look at another page into the source code. You have the same suffix, the same phrase, business and branding photography by Urban Safari, appended to all the SEO titles on the page. This is default WordPress functionality. This is the site name you have in your WordPress settings, but it's not good to have this exact phrase repeated throughout your website in all SEO titles. It's much better to have unique titles for all your pages. So don't leave the defaults on. Use the Yoast SEO plugin to write unique tags for SEO. And one other thing I checked for SEO is your use of headings, which I think it's pretty good. I think you only have one H1 heading per page, which is great, and then you kind of use H2 and H3 throughout your pages to kind of create a content hierarchy, which I think it's good. You're doing a good job there. Still in the topic of SEO, you're not doing such a good job with alt tags for your images. Let's try to take a look into the developer console for some of your images. All these images here on the homepage have the same alt tag, accommodation-photography 1. Obviously, or something similar, visual content accommodation. You could be doing a better job there, especially on the homepage, where the alt tags could include actual keywords to rank for based on the services you offer. Same here. Let's look at this image. The alt tag is Melbourne headshots. At least you're using headshots and the location, which is good, but you could be doing a better job throughout the website to use alt tags. Now, it depends on how your WordPress theme works and how much flexibility you have in that department, but definitely look into that. In your WordPress media library, edit those photos and enter something unique in the alt tag field for them. They should end up in the source code here. Don't let the defaults stay in place. Okay, one last thing about SEO is your website loads on a regular HTTP connection instead of the secure HTTPS connection. This has become a big ranking factor recently. Google looks at that, and in the Chrome browser, for example, Chrome shows in the address bar that this website is not secure. So you need to, it can be easily fixed, especially if you're using a hosting provider like WP Engine, because they provide free SSL certificates from Let's Encrypt. Just Google your hosting provider name and SSL, and then you can activate that in a few clicks on your hosting account. And then once you do that, once the SSL certificate is ready, then it's a matter of installing a plugin in your WordPress site to redirect everything over to an HTTPS connection. The plugin I recommend for that is really simple SSL. You just install it, activate it, and then in one click, the entire site loads perfectly on HTTPS. Okay, and one final thing here is if I open up your social media profiles here, I noticed that you're mentioning your website address with www in front when your website loads without www. So you should be consistent there and mention your website as it is. Okay. So let's talk about how your website looks on mobile for a moment. By default, you have this cart icon here from, I guess, your e-commerce plugin. I think this is a bit too much, since it's more of a presentation website, not an e-commerce website. So I would remove this icon here, and then we're on the homepage now, and those two big sections are way too tall vertically. You have to scroll a lot for them. So only on mobile you could make them take up less vertical space, make it all a bit more compact. I think that would be good. The rest of the website works pretty well on mobile, and Google marks it as mobile friendly, so that's good to have. Now on to website performance. The industry standard is Google's Page Speed Insights test, which I've loaded here. I know the website is marked as low on mobile. It can be improved. So let's look at what the test reports show us. So the steps you would need to take to make your website faster. The first one is optimizing images. straight away you can see that the website loads some images from the urbansafari.wpengine.com URL. So again, I mentioned that earlier. You can update all those links to load on your main domain. Other than that, these first two images are actually the big images on your homepage. They can probably be more compressed. They can be made smaller in file size, and all the other ones below are the images you have on your homepage here. So again, all these images can be compressed a bit more to save up more file size. Once you do that, this section of the performance report will go away, but it's clear that you can do a better job of compressing those images. Now, how to do that? There are tools like JPEG Mini to do that on your computer, but there are better WordPress plugins for that. Plugins like Short Pixel, which I like a lot, or another one is Imagify. Both of them have free versions of their plugins which you can install. They give you a monthly quota of images that you can compress, and the plugin compresses them automatically as you upload them to your WordPress media library. So it's kind of a seamless experience using them. And you can also go back into your media library to optimize your existing images. So this section of the performance report would go away. Now, another section, which is a big one, and this kind of affects many websites out there, is this one, which sounds very cryptic, but it comes down to how your website is coded, how your WordPress theme is coded, how many plugins you have. Basically, it's saying that browsers need to load many CSS and JavaScript files before actually being able to display something to the user. In your case, it's the amount of time when people are stuck seeing this loading animation before the actual page shows. That loading animation waits until all scripts and CSS files have finished loading. You can see the full list here. 8 JavaScript files and a ton of CSS files, some of which come from plugins, others come from your WordPress theme. Now, to fix this, you should just be using a really good performance plugin for WordPress. And the one I recommend and that I've had the most success with in the past is called WP Rocket. I think you should give it a try. It's a premium plugin. It's not free, but it's not that expensive, and it has a ton of features. It's easy to use, it's user friendly, and it fixes that exact problem that we saw in Google's PageSpeed Insights test. And it does exactly that through options like this. These are screenshots from the plugin. It minifies CSS files, so it makes them smaller. It can then combine them into one single big CSS file, so fewer requests from the browser. And it has a really clever optimized CSS delivery feature. It basically generates, I'm referring more to this feature, generate critical CSS. So it generates a smaller section of all your site CSS code, which is critical to load your website fast, and then all the other code is served up later. So it's kind of a lazy loading feature, and They have something similar with JavaScript files. They can be minified and combined, and loading them deferred. So only loading JavaScript files after the website has started loading visually for the user. This is all perceived performance, and a plugin like this can do all of this hard work for you. So all your performance worries would be fixed with a good performance plugin like this one. Other than that, let's look at, this is another performance testing website. I think it does Google's test and another Yahoo's Wiselow test. But let's look at what it reports for your website here. Minify JavaScript, which is what I mentioned that the performance plugin would do. It would combine them. Then you have avoid bad requests. This is basically saying that your homepage tries to load these specific CSS files from your WordPress theme, but they are not loading. They're showing an error. And I could confirm this by loading your homepage and looking into the browser JavaScript console, and I can see that some files couldn't be loaded. This is something you need to look into. Maybe your WordPress theme needs to be updated, or have a developer look at it if it's too complicated. But these errors slow down the loading of your website a bit and should be fixed. This is probably this might be fixable through the performance plugin as well, because when the plugin tries to combine all the CSS files in your theme, it might detect that these are missing and exclude them, but you need to test things out. Inline small CSS, again, this is fixable by the performance plugin. Optimizing images, we've already covered that. You need to compress them using a plugin, an image compression plugin. Defer parsing of JavaScript, again, this is done by the performance plugin, so you can see that how many performance issues can be fixed by just checking a few boxes in the performance plugin. Looking at the other test that they have, Wiselow, make fewer HTTP requests. This just tells you that the website tries to load a ton of JavaScript files and CSS files, and they should be combined. Again, this is what the performance plugin does. Expires headers. This is actually kind of a false positive. You can't do anything about it, because you can notice that the actual components that don't have an expiration date, it's a technical thing. They are external components from Google Fonts library and for Google Analytics. So you can't control those because they are in Google's backyard. You can only control how your actual website files are served, and so you can't do anything about this line, which doesn't matter that much. Then this report recommends using a CDN to speed up delivery of your files. And it shows some images. If you're using a good hosting provider like WP Engine, they have a CDN feature that you can activate in a few clicks. You have to look in, depending on the plan you have with them, it might be included or it's an extra expense, but it's something you could look into. It's not critical. I think if you can do without it, if you just activate and configure the performance plugin well. You don't have that big of a website. It's just a few static pages. you might not need a CDN. It might be overkill, but if you have it included in your hosting plan, definitely activate it. Okay, that's it for now regarding performance. I wanted to mention another website testing tool that I'd like to check from time to time for my clients. It's called Nibbler, and when I tested your website, it kind of tries to rank many aspects, not just SEO. Let's quickly take a quick look. The only places where it shows problems are the fact that you don't have a Twitter presence. There's no Twitter link or profile on your website. Popularity, this doesn't matter. It depends on how new the website is. You can ignore it. Meta tags, it realized that no pages have a description meta tag, which I talked about earlier. This is definitely something you could customize. Social interest is just subjective. It doesn't, the number of likes and so forth, this grows over time. Internal links, this is, I think it's kind of a false positive. Again, it's basically showing a bunch of your images that are linking to some of your service pages. Images can't have link text, so it's fine. I would ignore it. The report shows that it's good. You have a Facebook page. The amount of content is average in terms of quantity. It recommends maybe writing a bit more text on your pages, but I think the ratio you have now, especially for a photography website, of text versus images is good. I wouldn't make any major changes there. Images, most of them have a defined size. Some of them are resized by the browser. I wouldn't worry about this either, because it's normal for a responsive website, for a WordPress theme that's mobile friendly, that images sometimes are fluid in size and they adapt to the device size, so it's good. This is a cloud tag, a tag cloud of the headings on your website, and I think it's showing your most important keywords bigger, which I think is good. Now, the headings you use on your website, they are explored here. So all these headings, for example, are on your homepage. There is some room for improvement, like creatively considered and professional faces, which you're using here on your homepage, these small ones. Those shouldn't be H2 tags, I think, because they're considered more important. This is perfect to use as an H2, but not these two. And the smaller ones here, browse my work, read the blog, meet the photographer, they shouldn't be in all caps. They should be written in normal case, but then turned into uppercase using CSS code. You can probably do that in the theme options when you're building the page. Okay, and all the other items here in the report have the maximum mark, so good job there with the rest of the items. Good, so this is about it. I hope this was helpful. Overall, I'd say that the website is way above average, and the visual style it has is gorgeous. But as you can see, there's still plenty of room for improvement. So I hope you can follow some of my recommendations. If you implement many of them, I think you'll really end up with a more polished and modern website, which hopefully becomes, in the end, a better engine to grow your business, to drive more sales. So good luck with everything. Hope you're using Google Analytics and Google Search Console to track your progress. You should be doing that if you're not. And let me know once you see any results from these changes. And yeah, good luck and talk to you soon. Bye.